Welcome back. Let's dive right into this explainer on the dramatic collapse of the Third Reich. We're going to look closely at the actual mechanics of this downfall, breaking down the exact sequence of events that took an unstoppable force, a seemingly invincible empire, and turned it entirely into ash. Seriously, think about it. How does a man go from posing like a modern emperor in a conquered Paris to taking his own life locked deep inside a ruined bunker, surrounded by literal rubble and betrayal? Well, the answer reveals that his downfall wasn't sudden at all. It was deeply systemic. It wasn't just a matter of losing a single battle or having some bad luck. Defeat was essentially woven into the very fabric of the regime's decision-making. We're talking about a massive chain of delusions, severe economic blind spots, and the ultimate strategic nightmare, a fatal two-front war. So let's look at exactly how this illusion of invincibility was built in the first place.
Section 1. The Illusion of Invincibility.
You remember the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact? It was utterly absurd, literally like fire and ice teaming up. Fascist Germany and the communist USSR had completely opposite ideologies and, frankly, despised each other. But underneath the surface, they were secretly splitting up Eastern Europe like it was a giant chessboard. Hitler obviously didn't want lasting peace. He just needed time to secure the West without triggering that two-front war. So yeah, it was a ticking time bomb from day one. And you've got to consider the sheer terrifying speed of the Blitzkrieg. The whole world was in shock. Fast-moving tanks, roaring planes, motorized divisions all moving as one single creature. In September 1939, Poland falls. Then Norway and Denmark. And then, the absolute shocker, May 1940, the offensive against France, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. The supposedly impenetrable Maginot Line completely bypassed. The French army collapsed in just over a month. By June 14th, Paris was occupied. They seemed truly invincible. Until, well, they hit a wall. Which brings us to Section 2, the fatal Eastern pivot. 3.5 million. Let that number sink in. That is the staggering amount of troops launched into Operation Barbarossa in June 1941. After failing to break the UK, Hitler's colossal hubris pushed him to attack the Soviet Union. I mean, this was the largest military operation in human history. And the crazy part, he honestly thought he could crush the Soviets in just 3 months. But this quickly became a war of absolute extremes. The mechanical perfection of the summer blitzkrieg was just completely outmatched by the brutal reality of the Russian environment. Sure, at first, German tanks advanced with devastating momentum. But then autumn hit. The Rasputza, the thick mud, literally swallowed those stranded vehicles. And then came winter, minus 30 degrees Celsius. Weapons froze solid. Engines completely died. The mighty high-speed war machine was suddenly reduced to relying on horses just to pull artillery through the snow. Section 3, a war of factories. Here's where the economic mismatch becomes completely overwhelming. Through the U.S. Lend-Lease program, the USSR received a staggering 400,000 trucks, 14,000 aircraft, and 7,000 tanks. Meanwhile, the German reality was just total logistical collapse. Drowning in scarcity, relying on those horses, struggling to defend their skies against relentless Allied bombing, and rapidly running out of steel and fuel. The war had morphed into a massive industrial competition, and Germany was simply running out of gas. And to make matters even worse for the German war machine, the Soviets pulled off what might be the greatest industrial evacuation in history. They dismantled over 1,500 factories piece by piece, put them on trains, and moved them safely past the Ural Mountains. Safe from German bombers, they reassembled them in the freezing snow and started mass-producing weapons at a scale Germany couldn't even dream of matching. Section 4. The crushing turning points. The German soldier does not retreat. He stays and fights. That fatal stubbornness straight from Hitler dictated the absolute disaster at Stalingrad. The German Sixth Army got totally bogged down in horrific urban warfare, and when the Soviets surrounded the city, the German commander practically begged to retreat, but Hitler flat out refused. That one decision trapped over 300,000 German soldiers in a freezing urban wasteland. I mean, they were literally reduced to eating horses, rats, and bread made of sawdust. Stalingrad in early 1943 was their first major defeat, with 90,000 taken prisoner. And then came Kursk that summer, the largest tank battle in history. We're talking 900,000 Germans clashing with 1.3 million Soviets. After the unbelievable losses in the burning steel fields of Kirks, Germany's offensive power in the east was permanently broken. The invincible myth? Totally shattered. From that point on, they were only going backward. Meanwhile, the Allies were systematically choking out Axis forces in the Mediterranean. It's a textbook squeeze. Late 1942, El Alamein hands them their first major land defeat. Then Operation Torch brings the U.S. into Morocco and Algeria. By May 1943, 250,000 Axis soldiers surrender in Tunisia. Just a couple months later, Operation Husky drops Allied forces into Sicily, and Mussolini gets ousted from power. The whole Axis alliance was rotting from the bottom up. Section 5. The Fall of Berlin. Of course, we can't talk about the downfall without Operation Overlord, D-Day. June 6, 1944. What an absolute logistical marvel. 156,000 soldiers landing across Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword beaches. Supported by 5,000 vessels and 11,000 aircraft, they ripped open a massive second front in the west. And once that happened, Germany was locked into a completely unwinnable defensive war. Fast forward to April 1945, and that ultimate two-front squeeze is a crushing reality. A sick, deeply paranoid Hitler is hiding underground, while 2.5 million Soviet troops advance from the east, reducing the German capital to rubble. And at the exact same time, the Allies are pushing hard from the west. They finally meet, completely sealing the empire's fate. Section 6. Anatomy of a Downfall. So let's step back for a second. The defeat wasn't just a battlefield loss. It came down to three massive systemic failures. Number 1, strategic, opening a fatal two-front war of attrition. Number 2, economic, trying to fight with severe scarcity against unstoppable Allied industrial might. And 3, human, trying to rule entirely by fear, fanaticism, and blinding hubris instead of sound strategy. And we absolutely must acknowledge the horrifying legacy left behind as this regime finally fell. A completely devastated continent, the chilling discovery of the concentration camps, revealing the magnitude of the Holocaust, and the murder of 6 million Jews. It is a deep, agonizing moral wound that forever marked humanity. I want to leave you with this final thought. Can any empire, no matter how powerful it appears on the outside, ever really survive when its foundation is built entirely on hatred? History's answer, written right there in the ruins of Berlin, suggests that ultimately these empires just devour themselves. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.